Ako, salamat. Thank you very much. Carlo, I'm not kidding when I say, no wonder you're so good because you graduated under my watch. Let me greet our President, Don Lee, and Boss Carlo, our outgoing, and the rest of the officers and members of the board of ITAP. You know, you guys are supposed to be the most creative in the world. How come you cannot even come up with an easily forgettable, memorable acronym? ITAP, InfoComm. Think of Microsoft, di ba? Or Google. You guys are lucky because you are really the new creators of wealth. You are the new inheritors of fear. Because nowadays, I think, the new wealth is created through ICT. You know, business, and all these bright young guys creating wealth by the billions. But that's true because ICT cuts across all disciplines. It's cross-border thing. Think of think just 10 years ago when we don't even have cell phones. I used to go to my hometown, Baler, to be commencement speaker for this and that. And I had to go to the college station of PLDT. That's only 5 years ago. So finally, I talked to Manny Pangilinan. Manny, bakit kayo wala kayong signal sa, wala kayong tower sa Baler? You know, within 1 month, I set up one. And after about 6 months, I just accidentally met him and he said, thanks, Ed. Aurora, Baler, was our fastest growing market. Now Aurora, every other guy has a cell phone using, except that the data is still slow moving. And yes, imagine if our farmers are able to do remote sensing now, being able to tell whether the soil is good, their crop is going to be bountiful, there will be drought and such. A common thing in the West. Every farmer in the West are using remote sensing. Okay, cloud computing. Now we are initiating a cloud computing undertaking in Cebu because we have one of your members volunteering to provide seed capital and laboratory in Cebu. And we got some of the technological universities there to cooperate, and government through SIA, through DOST and CHED are cooperating. Now we're trying to put together a tripartite undertaking in technology, industry, academia, and business. So that's the model that we want you to help us. That you provide seed capital to cutting-edge technology, cutting-edge as far as we are concerned, but almost commonplace in other places, so that we can enable this very capable, easily educable, and trainable Filipinos. Proof of that statement is that we are now what? Call center capital of the world. Because we have the capability and we have the ability to be able to do that. Thanks to your industry and thanks to the OFWs, our economy are not sinking or collapsing as many countries are. Our economy is steady because we have enough foreign exchange earnings to prop up our currency and create demand here in this country. But imagine if IT BPO was not there, if our overseas Filipinos were not there. Imagine what we will become. So, youth industry is very pivotal to me, very critical. And that's why 5 years ago, I decided, and I'm not even an engineer, I'm not a scientist, I just know how to read. I decided that I will concentrate on science and technology, on bolstering our technological capacity. Because every time I read all those competitiveness schemes, whether of the World Bank or the World Economic Forum, I always see that one of the criteria where we miserably fail is in our technological capacity. And so I started to analyze why do we have such a low technological capacity. Well, number one, because our science and math education is not as strong as other countries. Our government is not as keen in investing in math and science in the first place. And so we began to mobilize assistance. We started to talk to industry leaders, and one of the guys I talked to was Dado Banatao in San Francisco. And every other year we meet and discuss. And the result is we are able to set up what we call the ERTT program. That's a program to educate X number of graduates in science, in engineering over a 5-year period. We are now at our 5th year, and we've been hitting the target, X number of master's graduates in different sciences and in engineering, different numbers of engineering graduates also in different disciplines. Now, if we continue this, and I hope that the current government continue this, then we will have a critical mass of scientists and technologies that will boost our competitiveness. To me, that only through science and technology can we leapfrog. We're already so far behind. We need to leapfrog, not just progress slowly and gradually. We need to jump forward. Vietnam in a couple of years will beat us. And in innovation classification, we are only beating Cambodia and West Irian. In innovation, that means in terms of patent issued and applied for, in terms of creativity. And yet, here's this whole house, this hall, full of creative people like you. That's why I said, this is our way out of perhaps poverty. Otherwise, we'll just be perennially poor. Sure, there will be pockets of prosperity in Metro Manila, in Calabarzon, in Central Luzon, in Davao, perhaps in Baguio, but the rest of the country will remain agrarian, will remain doing menial jobs. But I think that's the reality. Now, thanks to you, we are employing 600,000 young people in your sector. Direct employment, I understand, 1.5 million in direct employment. We're generating almost 12 billion in foreign exchange, and in 4 years' time, we will be more than doubling that, both employment and in revenue. And therefore, you are really a crucial, critical sector of our economy. You are the prop, not just a prop in our economy. But government must also follow, must take the cue. And that's why we in the Senate, we in Congress, are putting together a trio of bills which I believe will create a hospitable, friendly policy environment supportive of IT. The first one is, of course, the creation of a dedicated agency that will oversee policy making in your area. Heretofore, I think policy on IT has been dispensed almost retail, not in a centralized way. So we thought that we need one agency fully dedicated to thinking about how we can develop and grow our IT sector. So that's the Department of Information and Communication. I think we'll get that done, not by June, certainly within the year. The second of that trio is Cybercrime Act. The Philippines is a frontier town, it's a western town, anything goes. Because we don't define what constitutes a crime in cyberspace. You can commit practically identity theft or spamming or what have you, cyber sex and cyber prostitution without fear of being caught. Because there is no legal framework, there are no organized, directed way of doing protection, surveillance, and prosecution. You don't even know in this country who to complain to if your identity is stolen. So with the cybercrime law, we ought to lay down a broad framework for the domestic scene, but also a framework for international cooperation. As you know, cybercrime is in cyberspace. That is borderless, that requires cooperation with other countries. That is the key to protecting your rights, your internet rights, your cyberspace. And finally, the third one is the Data Protection Act. To me, this is the most important. Well, all three are important, but this is vital. Because if I don't trust that you will keep my data confidential and you will not protect it, why would I entrust my data to you? And yet, this world now is operated on data transmission, on sharing, on information sharing. And if no one now starts giving his own personal information, that will start to slowly decline, and especially in our country, because we are one of 10 countries in Asia vulnerable to data theft, etc. And therefore, we need to have data protection. Now, what's the status of all three laws? The cybercrime law that's been passed by both houses. The data protection has been passed by the House and is now under debate in the Senate. And the DICT has been passed by the House on second reading and has been passed by the Senate also on second reading. In other words, this is almost on the verge of passage, because once it's voted on second reading, that means the debate and discussion is finished, the only remaining thing is the so-called third reading, that is almost ministerial mechanical. You just stand up one by one and say, I vote yes, I vote no. So that's practically as good as passed. So that's the stage of our efforts, our legislative efforts at protecting the growth and development of your important industry. And when we pass this, when it gets out of Congress, I hope that the that the executive will be as enthusiastic and vigorous in picking them up, implementing them as quickly as possible. And I have no doubt that they will, because I think it's almost suicidal not to close your eyes to the reality that we need this industry, we need to protect it in as much as this biggest generator of wealth, not necessarily wealth, but of jobs and foreign exchange income of that's how vital you are. But not just because of your contribution to the economy, but because of the way this particular technology helps other activities in government, like it facilitates transparency in government. It helps health delivery through telemedicine. And in so many ways, this is, to me, the flagship technology moving the planet now. And therefore, you are quite lucky that you are in this industry. If there is a G7, G20, you are the G1 of industry, private industry. So thank you very much, and thank you for this invitation. I'm sorry I can stay longer than I want to. I'd rather be here than where I'm going. But it's duty that respond to. Thank you very much.